Alright, so the fenders are basically done. I just decided to kind of carry them back into the body. I was going to leave them out and put a big scoop right there. I may still put a scoop in this area. I haven't decided yet, but for now it's just going to be flat. That's what we're going to do. That's going to make it so the side skirt's a little bit easier to make. So something I learned with the Audi, for you guys that don't know, I built a wide body Audi a few years ago, 2 years ago. Side skirts gave me a huge trouble because I didn't design the fenders around building side skirts. So this time we were doing that. So we left this little cutaway. That's where the side skirt's gonna go. And then there'll be like a mounting plate right there that I just built, right inside of there. So the side skirt's actually gonna mount with some nuts and bolts through that plate to the fender so that the gap is nice and tight and works really well. But I think this is good. It's simple, it's clean. It works with the body line right here. So I think it's gonna be just fine. I don't wanna overthink this too much. But this will be basically your fender right there. And then we'll have a seam somewhere in here. I haven't decided where yet. And we'll do the front bumper that we built. Now, this stuff is taking a really long time to set. And I don't know if anybody commented about this on the last video because the last video hasn't gone out yet, like in this time period. But that stuff dries really slow. There's a quick setting kind that you mix up by yourself that we're gonna use on the fenders, and we'll just see. We're almost at 24 hours with this, and it's still really soft and really, well, really not ready to sand. So hopefully by tomorrow that will be dry, and we'll use that other kind on the fenders, and hopefully it will dry out a lot faster, and then we can just use that from now on, because this is just not gonna work for me. I need it to dry faster to be able to work with it and continue to move quickly. All right, so that is good. Front bumper's looking really cool. The next step is gonna be getting this stuff smooth and really making it look like a finished thing. I can't build the side skirts yet because I need the rear fenders, and I can't build the rear fenders yet because I need the rear wheels. So all of that's kind of waiting on those wheels to come in. So I think I'm just gonna keep going with this, and we'll just keep pushing forward until we have a finished part or until we're ready to build our rear wheels. It's looking sick. Episode we started our paper wide body. Every time I've built a wide body, I've used a different method, and it's all kind of been building on itself. So I started with some foam and then fiberglass straight over that, and we did a clay process, we did a different foam process, and the whole point is for me to try to find the most accurate and fastest way to build a wide body kit. And this time we're using kind of a mixture of a few methods, and we're adding in paper construction. And when I say paper, I mean paper and cardboard. Now on the back here, you guys saw me do a paper kind of fender extension and then rip it off and go to cardboard. The paper in big sections like that gets real wavy, and it would be a nightmare to try to bodywork out. Ran into that on the front bumper as well. So instead of using paper for these real big sections, I want to use cardboard. So instead of using paper for the real big sections, I'm using real thick cardboard. And I really think that's a better decision. Really for paper, I think the only thing that paper is really good for is these super complex kind of curved shapes, because it'll hold its shape in those kind of formations. In these real big flat areas, the paper just doesn't work. So we're figuring it out. It's all trial and error. Basically, so far, the rear panels back there have one coat of this filler drywall mud on it. I switched to a 20-minute mud instead of this pre-mixed bucket stuff. I don't really know much about drywall mud. So the pre-mixed mud was taking like 40 hours to cure, enough for me to sand, which is just way too long, just too slow. So I moved to a 20-minute mud, and it dries in about 5 or 6 hours in order to sand, or to be able to sand it. And it's really solid, which is great. So I've done a coat on the back, and we did one coat on the front, and I sanded it and then coated it again. So this is on its second coat. So what I'm gonna do next is sand everything down here on the back, and then we'll coat everything again. And basically my goal is just to get this as flat and perfect as possible before we start doing fiberglass. Normally I get it kind of close and I'm like, oh, I'll just figure it out with fiberglass, but I think that it's gonna be a better scenario all around if we start with a really, he's destroying that mud. So I think if we start with a really finished, nice looking product before we start with fiberglass, you can take that, then it's gonna make fiberglassing so much faster, which is the goal. So now it is time to sand this stuff, and that's one of the reasons for using this. This stuff sands super, super fast. So we'll just knock everything down, get it flat, and then we'll put another coat on. All right, so first major design flaw. These doors I forgot open kind of in an old school way. So instead of opening into the fender, they come out over the fender. Which means that this is not gonna work, which is a bummer. But I think, yeah, I think I can come up about an inch right here. I'm gonna try to just cut a straight line right here and see if I can salvage this piece, because it's coming out pretty good, minus these little bumps. So after round two, I've made a couple of discoveries. First, this mold that I made is too flexible. So when I start really sanding into it and trying to get it real smooth, it starts to crack and flex, which is not good. So I don't think that this is going to work the way I thought it was, but I'm still going to use it, and I'll explain how in just a minute. Now on the fenders in the back, I built those completely differently. They're made from thicker cardboard, and they're hot glued on with some tape, but mostly hot glued on, and the structure is there. So you can really lean into them and they don't change shape. It's kind of like this front bumper up here. You can lean into this thing and it's fine. But when you get into some of these more like flexible areas, when you start sanding into them, it just starts cracking and it's not doing what I need it to do. So I'm going to use a hybrid of a couple of methods on this, and we're gonna roll into that next. But on the back fenders, I'm still gonna use this method because I think that if I use thicker cardboard construction and build it a lot more solid, this was all just kind of taped together. I think if I build it a lot more solid as a base, then I'll be able to fill over it with this stuff pretty easily and get a really smooth piece. I mean, you can see this already looks and feels really good just as it sits. And I think if it was a little bit more solid, not so flexible, I'd be able to finish this out and it would look just like a regular body panel, which is the goal. So anyway, like I said, I'm gonna move to a different method on the front here, and we'll keep using this one on the back and just see what happens. Still have a decent amount of work to do before this feels like a finished piece that's ready for fiberglass, including this is bowing out, which is not good. So I'm gonna go ahead and work this out and get it real flat so that we can move on to the fiberglassing stage. If my camera is a bit foggy, this may be the build that kills my camera. I'm really hard on cameras. My camera has clay all over it right now, and it looks a little foggy to me, I don't know. And I keep expecting it to die, but it just keeps working. So I haven't replaced it because it's just been a good camera to me. But I've had this camera since 2016, and it has seen its share of falls and dirt and fiberglass and Bondo and mud and everything else. So if it's a little bit foggy, it's just an old camera. I'll post a picture of this thing on my Instagram the day this comes out so you guys can see what I'm talking about, because it really does look rough. All right, let's get to work. All right, so here is my piece. This is as far as I'm gonna work it in the clay, and I could get it probably a little bit better, and I may regret this later, but I need to build that up just a little bit. But anyway, I didn't build in enough structure for the weight of this clay, and so you can see I had to throw these 2x4s in there to hold the bumper up, and it's holding and it's good, but I'm just ready to get it into fiberglass, and this may be a mistake, I don't know, we'll find out later, but I'm gonna go ahead and do that. So I have to build this little corner right here up just a little bit more now that I'm looking at it. But then I think we're gonna be good to go to the next step, which is aluminum foil. So I'm gonna try to lay aluminum foil down on it really, really smooth. I'll probably sand it down a little bit too to get it real smooth. And then plastic, and then we'll be able to glass it. But I gotta fix that. It's gonna drive me crazy. So in this process, you get a lot of it looks worse before it gets better kind of situations, and this is one of them. It obviously looks worse, and I'm not crazy about this step, but it's necessary. And the reason I'm not crazy about it is aluminum foil doesn't stretch at all, so you get these curves and stuff, and it just crinkles up and makes more spots for you to sand down in the fiberglass, so I don't really like that. But I did find out when I built the Power Wheels wide body that the smoother the clay is, the better it all comes out anyway. So maybe I'll find a material that works like the aluminum foil, but it'll stretch a little bit more. I don't know. But basically what the aluminum foil is, it's a water barrier. So it makes sure that the tape will actually stick. The tape won't stick to clay. And the aluminum foil sticks really well to clay. It also holds moisture into the clay, so you can reuse your clay after you get done. And it just provides like an extra sacrificial layer between the fiberglass and the actual clay. I wish I could pull the fiberglass straight off the clay, but I don't think you can with potter's clay. I don't really know. Maybe we'll try that one day, but for now, this is what we're gonna do. So I did sand it down a little bit. That was to knock down some of those high spots. It does feel a lot better. It's not perfect, but it feels better. So the next thing we're gonna do is put some packing tape on top of it. But first, I bet this is gonna look cool. So next, we're just gonna coat everything that we're putting fiberglass on with packing tape. And it's going to give us, basically fiberglass won't stick to this. So it'll give us a layer that the fiberglass won't stick to. We can pull it off later, and none of this stuff is gonna get embedded into the fiberglass. I use the brown kind because you can see it. The clear kind is what I used last time, and I got lost like several times. This is another thing, it doesn't really flex, so you kinda have to be careful that it goes on really, really smooth and straight. All right, one down, a million to go. All right, there we go. That is a bumper. That is how I make custom bumpers. I did kind of mesh two of my methods together, being the papercraft and the clay, and I think that's the way to go in trying to make stuff that's symmetrical, because as you can tell, I mean, this is symmetrical. It looks normal. And if I had done this with just clay, it would have been way harder and taken way more time to make it symmetrical, and I used a method to do that with my son's Power Wheels, and it didn't work out well, which is why I didn't think I'd be using the clay technique again. But turns out clay over the papercraft technique really makes a beautiful result, and I'm really, really excited to pull a mold off this thing. But we'll have to wait till the next episode because I'm out of time. Now, the good news for you is I'm changing my schedule up, so the next episode's tomorrow. So check back on Bill tomorrow. We're gonna start posting twice on the weekends with everybody back at work now and people back at school. I just feel like it's a better time for you guys, and if you're not a weekend YouTube watcher, you can catch up in the middle of the week. So Saturday and Sunday at 11 a.m. CST, that's 12 p.m. on the East Coast, or 8 a.m. if you're on the West Coast. And then if you're in Europe, it's in the afternoon, sometime in your afternoon, like 5 or 6 o'clock to 8 or 9 o'clock. I don't know. I'm trying to get everybody in it. I can't do it all the time, but it should be when most of you guys are awake. So we're going to start dropping 2 videos every weekend. We're not going to post during the week. The weekdays are going to be when I'm actually doing all the work. I think it's going to work really well, and I think it's going to work out for you guys too. Let me know if you like that idea. I'll see you tomorrow.